Welcome to the Explainer. Today we are breaking down the final, crucial chapter leading to India's independence. Now, if you've got a history exam coming up, pay close attention because this explainer is built specifically to help you nail the key facts and events of 1946 and 1947. So, in 1946, this was the question: one India or two? On one side, you had the Indian National Congress, led by figures like Nehru, pushing hard for a single, united India. But on the other side, the Muslim League, with Muhammad Ali Jinnah at the helm, was absolutely firm on its demand for a separate nation, Pakistan. And this one disagreement, well, it pretty much sets the stage for everything that's about to happen. All right, here's our game plan for today. We're going to look at that last-ditch effort for unity, then the plan that actually led to partition, and finally, the official act that created two new nations. And you are definitely going to want to stick around to the end because I've got a super simple memory trick that ties this whole story together. It's going to be a huge help for your exams. Okay, let's dive in. We start in 1946. Tensions are boiling over, and Britain decides to make one final, really big attempt to find a compromise, a way to keep India united. And this attempt was called the Cabinet Mission Plan. So what was the idea here? Well, it was this really complex but kind of clever three-tiered system of government. You got to think of it as this grand compromise. It was designed to give the Muslim League a ton of autonomy over its provinces, with the hope that this would be enough to convince them that a whole separate country wasn't really necessary. It was an incredibly delicate balancing act. This slide really shows you how they tried to solve the puzzle. The key thing to get here was the very weak central government. It would only handle things like defense and foreign affairs. That was a huge concession to the Muslim League, which was terrified of being dominated by a Hindu majority. Then you had this grouping of provinces, which gave Muslim-majority regions real control over their own policies. It was a clever solution for sure, but as we're about to see, it was also very, very fragile. All right, here is our first big exam trick. To remember all the key features of the Cabinet Mission Plan, you just have to remember one word: magic. And it makes sense, right? The mission was basically trying to perform political magic to hold India together. And here's how magic breaks down into a perfect exam answer for you. M is for minor subjects at the center. A is for the assembly that was going to be formed. G stands for that crucial grouping of provinces. I is for the interim government. And C is for constitution making. You nail those 5 points, and you are looking at a top-tier answer right there. So here's the thing. The magic didn't last. The mistrust between the parties was just too deep. The Muslim League eventually walked away from the plan because they were afraid that the Congress would just use its majority in the new assembly to scrap all the safeguards. And with the failure of this plan, that last real hope for a united India, well, it started to fade away. So with the Cabinet Mission Plan in the dust, there's this huge shift. The whole goal changed. It was no longer about trying to preserve unity. It was now about figuring out how to manage division. And this brings us right to the next and most decisive plan. Okay, so fast forward to 1947. The situation on the ground is getting really, really bad. Communal riots are escalating. So Britain sends in a new viceroy, Lord Mountbatten, and his instructions are crystal clear: transfer power and do it fast to avoid a full-blown civil war. He took one look at the situation and concluded that partition was the only way out. This plan, announced on June 3, 1947, was not about compromise anymore. Not at all. This was like a surgical procedure designed to divide the subcontinent as quickly as humanly possible. This was the moment that partition went from being a possibility to an inevitability. Now this slide here, this is the blueprint for the division. A critical decision was to partition Punjab and Bengal, two massive provinces with mixed populations. They also set up referendums so certain regions could vote on which country to join. And they created a boundary commission to draw the new borders, a task that sadly would prove to be incredibly tragic and difficult. Now, for the Mountbatten Plan, the memory trick is awesome because it's the name of the outcome itself: partition. You can't get any easier than that. For your exam, the purpose of the plan is literally right there in the mnemonic. And just look at how this gives you a perfect checklist for your answer. P is for P, Punjab divided, A for the Assam referendum, R for the referendum in the NWFP, T for two dominions, and on it goes. Just follow the letters, and you will not miss a single key feature of this plan. So the plan is on the table, and the Indian leaders have agreed to it. What's next? Well, you've got to make it law. The British Parliament had to pass an official act to make it all happen. This was the final legal step that would end almost 200 years of British rule in India. And what's just wild is how fast all of this happened. Think about it. June, the plan is announced. Just 1 month later, in July, the law is passed in London, and by August, 2 brand new countries exist. This breakneck speed was meant to stop the violence, but many argue it actually made the chaos even worse. So this act, the Indian Independence Act of 1947, was the final official piece of paper. It legally created India and Pakistan. It ended the authority of the British Crown, and it gave the hundreds of princely states the choice of which new country to join or to try to remain independent, a decision that, would create a whole new set of problems down the line. Okay, we've got one last memory trick for you, and it's for the act itself. And the word couldn't be more perfect. Divides. Because the entire purpose of this law was to divide British India's territory, its army, its assets, everything. And there you have it, another perfect mnemonic for your exam. D for dominions, I for independence, V for viceroy replaced. You see how it works. So now with the words magic, partition, and divides, you have a complete framework for mastering this entire period. So you have the 3 main events, and you have a mnemonic for each one. That's great. But how do you remember the order? How do you tell this story correctly when that exam paper is sitting in front of you? Well, we've got one final trick for that. If you remember only one single thing from this entire explainer, make it this sentence. This is the simple story that gives you the perfect chronological flow for your exam answers. It's the whole narrative in just 7 words. It's the golden ticket. Remember this sequence. Think of it like a story. First, the attempt at political magic to keep India united failed. So what happened next? Well, because of that, partition had to happen. And finally, how did they make it all official? The act legally divides the country. This 3-step story makes sure you will never mix up the order or the purpose of these crucial events. It's a really powerful question to think about, isn't it? How the failure of just one plan reshaped an entire subcontinent forever. And that is your explainer on the final chapter of India's road to independence. You are now fully equipped with the story, the details, and the tricks to absolutely ace it. Good luck.